You're being recorded so that you can refer back to this. Okay. Here's where I want to change stuff. Okay. Your default point style is set to basic and elevation and description. And your next point number really should be 2. Okay. What was that? I'm sorry. Yes, I'm recording.
Like, are you going to screen? If you're not screen sharing.
Aha, thank you. Thank you.
That would have been.
That would have stank. Awesome. Joy, thank you. I appreciate you. Okay, so now I am sharing. Okay, so now if we go to point, so this is Prospector, right? So tool space is always here on the side under the home tab. So if this isn't up, you just go to the home tab, click on tool space, and this pops up. So then under settings, general, nope, not there. Aha, point style. So your default label so you want that to be your default elevation, right? So why am I having trouble finding it? Drawing settings, maybe? Ambient. General. I'm having trouble locating it at the moment. Well, it's not a big deal to go in and change it. So if we go to points, create, for some reason, that should not be that way, but we'll change it as we go. So go to manual, and then we're going to go endpoint. And let's say that second point was a PK nail. That's just the type of nail that it is. I'm going to say the elevation's 100. The next point is a hub. Elevation's 300. And then do another hub, 200. And then that point, which is a hub. So this last point that I set right here, I'm going to edit this. So right click, go to edit point. Instead of it being a hub, I'm going to code it CHK, right? Because this is my closure back to where I was, right? So if I want to change this item, all I'm doing is left clicking on each one of these. I'm going around, left clicking. There's a way to change that default style. And for some reason, I'm not finding it quickly. So I'm just going to go to the properties. So I right click and went to CAD property. Am I going too quick? This is stuff that I did before. Okay. So CAD properties, the point style is set to default. I'm going to change this to basic. And I'm going to change this to point number, elevation, and description. Okay. There we go. So everybody see how your screen can get uber packed, right? In most offices, you're going to have a dual screen so that you can take these things and drag them over. So in this type of setting, you just got to kind of minimize or close the windows and then bring them up as you do. It's just not, it's not ideal, but in the real world, in a CAD environment, you usually have two screens that kind of keep multiple things going. Everybody okay with this so far? Okay. Questions? All right, so close that. I'm going to close that. So now we have our points, right? For some reason, now if you want to see all of them, you go to point list. So for whatever reason, it didn't remember my coding. So I'm just going to go in and edit it now. And this is kind of just like a spreadsheet. And you can detach this from its anchor point. Like if it's anchored over here, you can pull it away if you wish. Right? You can slide the columns to see things better. See how it's cutting off the easting? You can kind of drag the columns and make them a little bigger. So when I had up on the board that I wanted a point list, that's what I want. Print screen snipping tool, do I care? No, not really. So that's what I'm looking for when I say a point list. Good? Is anybody not good? Okay. When you kind of work your way around your traverse, right? You're going to have to add up your interior angles. So how do you get your interior angles? If you go to inquiry, angle, select the first line, select the second line, acute angle, obtuse angle. Write it down. Next one, acute angle, obtuse angle. Write it down. So you're just worried about interior angles, right? So just write down your interior angles, sum it up and see what your angular quotient is. You don't need to revisit that, right? Okay. Horizontal coordinates. If I started here and ended here, am I going to be smack dab right on top of that point? No, of course not. If your beginning coordinates and ending coordinates are exactly the same, I know you're fibbing. It closed. No, it didn't. Something went wrong and we dragged it. We're going to force it to fit. No. Show me how far it was off. How do you know how far you're off? Could you calculate the latitudes and departures? Of course you can. You know enough trigonometry. Can you do it in CAD? Distance. Points are called nodes. So from NOD, see how it's grabbing the point? To NOD. Distance. Why is it 401.23? Is it 401 feet from that point to that point? Come on, I know it's Friday, I know it's early, but why is it 400 feet? No, I went from node to node. What are the elevations of the 2 points? It's giving you a 3-dimensional length. Oh, snap. Did I go around and set my elevation on my closing point? No. Point list. Points. List points. See how I just kind of arbitrarily set an elevation of 100? You're going to have to go in after you've calculated your verticals, because you're going to have to do that with trig. And okay, am I going uphill, downhill? Everybody knows how to do that. We went over it. Right? And you're going to plug in your elevations. Then you can get it. If you just want a horizontal error, inquiring a CAD distance is going to give you a 3-dimensional error. How do you get a horizontal error? Well, in CAD, sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna do trigonometry.
You could, but, and I know you all have the skills to do the trick, right? I have every faith in, okay, I have an X coordinate and a Y coordinate, and square root of X squared plus Y squared. Okay. CAD, if you draw a polyline, remember polylines? From node to node, polylines are always and forever 2-dimensional. It's going to remember the first elevation and it's going to use that the whole way around. So now if you draw a polyline from point to point, what's my error? Yeah, 0.15 feet length. But can you do the trick? Absolutely. I have every faith in your math. Does anybody want to figure it out? How about we use the tools? Right? It's just knowing what tool to use. Everybody good with this? Okay. Let's start talking about creating a drawing. Because everything we've done is just, right, in this space in CAD. So there's 2 spaces in CAD, 2 working spaces. There's called model space and paper space. Model and layout. Model is the real world. It's 125 plus or minus feet between our benchmark and McCollum Spire. Is our drawing sheet going to be 125 feet long? No, that would be a bad idea. Right? So we need to have a sheet, kind of like I showed you on that example drawing. How do we do that? Okay, that's what the purpose of these 2 spaces is. Model is exactly what it sounds like. It's the real world. It's the, you know, I'm going to build a model of my book bag. I'm going to build a model of whatever. Paper space is, I want to create a drawing of that. Okay. If I click layout, oh no, Barlow, everything disappeared. I gotta start over. No. It's still there. You're just in a different space. I'm gonna switch back. How do you know you're in one or the other? You see that little guy? What is that? Your coordinate system, your axes, whatever. X, Y, right? Model space. Paper space. You see how it changed? This is a throwback to old school drafting terminology. When you had an old drafting board, you had a parallel line on the bottom and you had a 30, 60, 90 triangle on the side to draw your vertical line. Horizontal and your vertical. Orthographic, ortho, that's where ortho comes from. It's the old school drafting. Okay. Only the old guys know this, right? Paper space. So now you're in paper space. Why is this important? Because now you can create a scaled drawing. Okay. See how you have this little yellow sort of display border? It kind of tells you the extent of the page. Here's where you have to know the sheet size that you made. Remember? 24 by 36, 30 by 42, or 36 by 48. Right? We've talked about model space and paper space. Has anybody heard of external references, XREFs? External references are just kind of Lego pieces that you're going to put together to make something else. So your title block is a drawing you've made somewhere, hopefully you have it. More on that in a minute. That you're going to bring into you. It's just another Lego or another puzzle piece that I'm going to put in. Now, can you tear out a piece of paper for a second? I want to make a model of my phone, model space, paper space. So here's my paper. I want to look at my model. I have to make something called a viewport. A viewport, if you can imagine, is, imagine this had my title block and everything on it. I'm going to make a window by cutting a hole in the paper so that I could see down below what's underneath. Right? I don't have a pair of scissors, but you kind of get the idea. So how do I do this? Right? First, I want to bring my title block. That's step one. How do I bring my title block in? What did I say the title block is? And external reference, that's right. Okay, so to get the external reference, type XREF, XREF, right? XREF. It brings up this dialog box. Are there any X references in here now? No, it's just the drawing that you're in. So come up here to this working space, the upper one, not the lower one. Right click. See how it says attach drawing? Most of the things that I'm popping up are right click, left click, scrolling the wheel of the mouse in or out. Right? I just right clicked up here and I'm going to select attach drawing. Attach drawing. Now, it's kind of like opening another drawing, but I'm bringing it into this. So where is it? Where's Waldo? So if I go up here, I've been doing stuff from my external drive. Okay. My external drive. No, that's not it. Where did I draw my title block? Well, let's do this. So I've navigated to my drawing. So this is my title. Where do I want it? What do I want to do with it? How do I want to bring it? There's two types of references, attachments and overlays. Okay. Most projects that I've ever worked on have exclusively used overlays. Attachments and overlays are two different animals. For the purposes of this class, do everything as an overlay. Right? For the purposes of this class, do everything as an overlay. When you get out in industry, the company that you work for, they're going to have their own title block. They're going to have their own set of standards. They're going to have their own. They might tell you do attachments, and they'll tell you the reason why. For right now, let's keep it simple and use overlays. Okay. All right. What's the scale of it? Where do you want to put it? If you drew your title block to scale, you're not going to scale it at all. Right? It's going to be 1-to-1. Right? Almost exclusively, the stuff is going to be one. You're not going to want to scale stuff up and down. Okay? And the base points for external references are always 0, 0. Like you want to insert everything at the same location That way, if we have all of your buildings and we have all of those as separate entries, I can take all of your surveys, put them together and make one big map of the campus. If I insert everything at 0, 0, and you put your stuff on state plane coordinates, correct? All right. So we're going to click overlay. Right? And we're going to hit OK. And it asks you for an insertion point. And like I said, it's going to be 0, 0, 0. Okay. There's 0, 0, 0. The white part that you see is going to be the sheet. Is my sheet on my title block correctly? No. How do I get it there? Go down to the layout tab so that you're pointed on it, right click. Okay. Let's rename this. I'm going to call it whatever you want. Okay. Right click on that. And all I did was hit rename. Now I'm going to go to page setup manager right here in the middle, page setup. These are all the different setups in this drawing. You can have multiple tabs in this drawing, multiple files. More on that later. We're just going to deal with our existing. So if you click modify, it's looking now for a printer that I have at my office. It's saying, wait a second, what? I'm just going to hit OK. So now, does this dialog box look familiar? Did anybody try printing? Right. It's the same thing. Okay. So the printer that I'm going to use is, you can do just the Adobe one, or you can do publish to PDF or drawing to PDF, or for right now, I'm going to use this one. Okay. Arch E1 is 30 by 42. Yeah, it's telling you 30 by 42. These are all your different paper sizes. Okay. E1 is 30 by 42. Arch E is 36 by 48. And Arch D is 24 by 36. Arch being architectural sheet size A, B, C, D. An architectural sheet A is an 8.5 by 11. So you're either dealing with D, E, or E1. Okay. What are my extents? I'm going to do the extents of the drawing, right? Arch D, and we're just going to use the CAD plot style. More on the plot styles later, right? And my orientation is portrait, not landscape. And hit OK, close. Well, it's still not right. The reason it's still not right is this line here. Okay, I want to make my own viewport. I'm going to erase this. Okay. Now I'm going to Z for zoom, E for extents. I'm going to go back to page setup manager. I'm going to go to modify. Okay. Now, you see how I don't have any red anymore? I just switched this to landscape. Okay. I have my origin still set to center of the plot and extents. So this is almost always set to extents and center. And this is usually always set to 1:1. Okay. And you hit OK, and ta-da! The white is what's going to print, and anything cut in color is either going to print in color or black or white. Seals are there, logo, whatever your title block is. So now I have my title block in here as an extra. Did I go too quick? We good? Can you all get here? Let's make a drawing. So all that is making a viewport. How do I make a viewport? The command is called MVIEW. You're going to create an M view. Pick a point. I'm going to pick somewhere down here close to the lower left, and then somewhere close to this upper right. Whoa. It just made something. It just made a little hole in the paper that I could see down to my travelers. I just made a drawing. How cool is that? Not quite cool yet. Is that to scale? Come on, I'm an old guy. I'm not cool yet. I look cool. Is that to scale? No, it's not. How do I get it to scale? The easiest way to get it to scale is select your viewport line, left click on it so that it's highlighted. Now right click and go to properties. You see where it says display lock? No, the display is not locked, so I can change it. That's a good thing. What scale is the drawing? Is that like a uniform scale? No, it's like some oddball. Like, okay, well, how do I get it to be something uniform? Well, all you do is click on where it says custom. So custom tells you that it is not to a scale. So if you go up here to where it says standard scale and you hit the little down parrot, right? If I change this to, let's do 100. Ta-da! That's at 100 scale. 1 inch on the drawing is equal to 100 feet in the real world. 1 inch equals 100. For people that traverse a long distance, can you easily make me 2 drawings? One of the whole thing that you traversed out to, and then one of your loop that's a closer scale? Sure you can. Does it take long? No, all you're doing is changing one thing. So here, 200 works. Okay. Now I'm going to change my annotation scale to 200. You see how it changed my label sizes? So the label isn't like the whole sheet size, right? So those two should match. And now I can lock it. I don't want anybody to change it. So if I lock this, now that shows me the whole thing. If I grab this and I move or copy it, move to end, create a copy. Now I have 2 versions of it. Just traverse. I tab over to that one, model space. Well, now this one, I just want to see my traverse. So I'm going to unlock it. And I'm going to change my standard scale to 80. Okay. Let's do 60. I'm going to change this to 60. Now, everybody sees how I'm not centered, like it's down here. I want to shift it up. Okay. I'm in paper space, right? Yes. I can go down into paper space or down into model space from paper space. If I type MS for model space while I am in paper space, you see how this popped up? Now I'm down here in the viewport. Now if I type the word pan, P-A-N, a little hand. I can take this and shift it up. Exit, type PS to put me back into paper space, MS and PS. Ta-da. There's my traverse. There's my whole thing. Everybody can do that on their own. Okay, what I want to talk about now, while this saves, is saving and file formats and all that fun stuff. Okay. I'm working on just a standard PC here in AEC. Okay. I've saved my drawing and I've saved it to where I opened it. So it should